Thank you, Julie. I feel that at this time it's almost like making a commencement speech at a graduation. We've been involved with this process, and Julie and I have done a number of years. When we first talked about the Pearl Valley and San Diego working together in the mega region concept and writing the grant. And I remember when I got that phone call that said, okay, move forward, you need to raise $25,000 in 2 days.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Well, that's great. Asked a few people, and it was surprising.
Thank you.
Some really understand the concept, or I should say, put faith in me and the IDC in moving this forward. And so we believe in this. If you say it's the thing to do, then let's do it. And it wasn't easy going through this process. There were times when you say, are we going the right path or we're not, and let's change direction a little bit. But it was lucky it was a Monday because I attended the IID meeting, or county meeting in the morning, a public session, and said, this is something I'd like to move forward. And they said, we'll put on next to the agenda for approval, and same with the IID. And so with that funding in place, I was able to move forward and approach the Joint Chambers of Commerce and others. And by the way, they said, Tim, we're ready to hotel and place to meet. And I called my friend Atul Kumar and said, Atul, we need a hotel. Can you help us? And he said, yes, absolutely. If you need a hotel room for anybody that attends, then make sure you let me know, and we'll give them a very good price. And today, when we had a tour put together, a couple extra people attended, so my Tahoe wasn't big enough, so I needed to get a car. I ran into Atul last night and said, Atul, can I borrow the van for the Valley? And he said, no, you can borrow my car at Old Date. And that's the type of people we have here in Pearl Valley. So first of all, I want to say that I apologize for not introducing the elected officials. It's very important. Without the support of the elected officials, the IBC would not be here, nor this initiative. And sometimes the government has got to take the lead, and others will follow. But I've got to say one thing about the Dean's Attorney and Bob Filner that I really appreciate is they're very approachable and very welcoming when they come to Pearl Valley. They don't like to come with an entourage, although Denise had a cup of coffee and a cookie here sitting for her when she got here. Which she offered to share with me, by the way. Every time I've met them, whether it's in Washington, Sacramento, or San Diego, or in Pearl Valley, they've always been the same people. I've got to say that too about the elected officials here in Pearl County. Many of them are here today. Victor Purillo, just walking into the room, was very supportive of this initiative and the things we're doing in San Diego. Louis Fuentes is not only a mayor, but he also runs a business. And you can say that about the elected officials here. They're not full-time politicians. You know, Mark Rand is here today while electrons are being generated at Cal Energy. And so he took the time off to be here today. So elected officials, many of them here in Pearl County, also have jobs. And some of them have jobs by choice because they want to continue in their professions while at the same time giving back to their community. And the Joint Chambers of Commerce, I think, through this initiative, has really elevated themselves to an organization that represents Pearl County and supports Pearl County what they're doing. I want to say thank you for your participation. The Imperial Irrigation District, as I mentioned, was one of the groups that immediately took on this initiative, and I want to thank JP Linville for being here today. And JP is one of those guys who calls me at 7 o'clock in the morning and says, Tim, I've been waiting 2 hours to call you because I didn't want to wake you up and be talking about something. And so that's our farmer director for the IID, and we have a lot of those in Pearl County. But a couple things I want to say is that, number one, what's most important about this, and I remember going to Bob Filner and Mr. Cheney made this comment to me, when I approached this with some projects. They said, okay, you people get together. You tell us what you want, and we'll make it happen. The key thing was you get together. And it wasn't as an individual industrial park, an individual city, it was the community. We look at what the projects are throughout the region, and we focus on those, we prioritize them, and we get them done. And it's interesting that Pearl Valley has always been, I think that Christina has noticed this when she came to Pearl Valley, how welcoming we are. I think that Christina and Mark Cafferty were two of the people that got this sooner than anybody. Mark came from Boston, went to San Diego, and he said, what opportunities? And they said, what opportunity is that? The high tech and the opportunities for working in Pearl Valley. And he had to tell that to people in San Diego that lived there their whole lives that never even thought about that. And so those are some of the opportunities that we have today. First of all, coming together, reaching across. And when I say we're very welcoming, sometimes here in Pearl County, we fight with our neighbor, we have an open arm to somebody that travels from San Diego or even from Mexico that comes to visit us. And so in some senses, it's been easy to develop a relationship with San Diego, while at the same time we're having these battles internally. But through this process over the year, I think that we've seen people come together, we've seen people working together, we've seen a lot of things that have happened. I think this last Tuesday at the State of the County address that the Joint Chambers put on, we really saw a great community come together and celebrate not only new director, supervisor coming in, but the things that have been accomplished, the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly, the direction that we're going in Carroll County. I want to say that everybody here is important. Elected officials, I want to apologize for not introducing you individually, as we should have at the beginning. The business sector that is here today that really is going to carry this forward for us. And thank you, George and Olive, for being here today. Every city here is represented in this room today. Anybody from Cal Patriots? If they're not, I represent Cal Patriots. I grew up there and it's not. And so anytime they're not in attendance, they say, is it okay if I represent you? They say, yeah, it's fine. So this has been a year-long effort. And for Julie, in my case, it's been several others. And for EDCs, it's been much longer. But one of the things we noticed at the beginning, we set up the plan, okay, we're going to get 10 people from the Imperial Valley, we're going to get 10 people from San Diego, we're going to get together, and we're going to put our heads together, we're going to come up with a lot of solutions. We met twice, and all of a sudden, there were 40 people, 50, 60 people in it. So we need to open this up, and our next goal was, well, we need to get that, once we get our act together, we're going to go into Baja, and we're going to make some connections down there, and we are going to include them into this process. And that time frame was probably about January of this year. Well, here we are in January. 6 months prior to that, we started the process, and including Baja, in the process of the mega region. And so, in many ways, people said, well, what's the next step? What's the next step? Well, we're already almost a year ahead of where we should have been. And it's because this thing is snowballed, it's carrying forward, and there's people that are here today from Mexicali, many of them, that came, and maybe some others from Baja that I didn't notice, that are here today, that want to be a part of this. And when we approach people from Baja, it's interesting, because their comments to us were, we've been waiting for this to happen. We've been waiting, and so now's the time. If this was a commencement speech, I would say something like, you know, we spent a year together, we've done a great job, now you've got the tools, now get out of here. And so that's where we are today. I noticed in our travels in China recently that when I talk about the Imperial Valley, it's good and it's new and it's exciting to them because it's something they're not familiar with. But it's still a small county. It's a small population. And we've got some positives, but there's also some negatives. San Diego's got some positives and negatives, and so does Baja. But when we put us all together, the positives, by far, outweigh the negatives. And when we look at our resources, we look at our workforce, we look at our housing, we look at our infrastructure, and we look at where we are today and the improvements that we'll have, and moving in the right direction, and we can sell something of where we're going to be in a couple of years, rather than focusing on the negatives. Today, we're going to correct those negatives, and we have a good process in place to do that, but we're selling the positives, and I've got to say a couple things. Yesterday, we had 5 meetings at the same time at 8 o'clock in the morning with 6 staff people of IBC, all of them separate locations. Today, we set out on a tour. We worked with people from San Diego, which is what this initiative was about. Bring people from San Diego and Baja to the Imperial Valley so we can show them what we have. Let's go to Mexicali and bring people from San Diego and see what they have to Ensenada and Tijuana and San Diego. So that we know each other, we know what our resources are. Today, we had a tour that started at 8 o'clock, went all the way to the Salton Sea. We looked at geothermal plants, we looked at agriculture, we looked at, not talked about algae, we looked at algae being grown. We looked at 3 facilities where they are ready to start producing algae within a month. Another one that's ready to go to the next level, another one that's been doing it for 20 years, which you know about. And then we drove all the way to the port of entry, and we looked at the progress that's taking place there, and on to Calexico and back to the cities. And it's amazing for those that have not had that opportunity, I can't do this every day, but if you take everything that's occurring in this county and you just put it in one place, and you look at that, it's phenomenal what is occurring. And if you don't get off the freeways and you don't get out of your individual cities, you're not going to experience that. And it's interesting in how things are lining up. Renewable energy projects in the north and in the south and around the valley. The port of entry was taking place there in Calexico, the east port of entry. And in El Centro with some of the industrial parks, the Imperial growth that we see there. The Brawley Bypass, today they're still working. They're still moving dirt, and that's a good sign to see with the stadium conditions. And that thing will be completed, and we will have a fully integrated transportation system.